Hello, assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim. Bismillahir rahmanir rahim. Alhamdulillahi rabbil alamin. Wassalatu wassalamu ala sayyidina Muhammad al-Fatih al-Khatim wa ala alihi qadri lazim. Assalamu alaikum. Good morning, everyone. I'm back on my series of lectures on the topic reflection on the verses of the Holy Qur'an. If you can remember, in the last session, we were discussing the story of Prophet Moses, how he was born under terrible circumstances, how he was eventually taken to the house of Pharaoh, the very Pharaoh who slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Israeli children looking for Moses to kill. So Moses was entrusted in the hands of his enemy by the Almighty Allah, to the extent that even if it is his mother that will breastfeed him, she had to be paid by that same enemy, that is Pharaoh. We stopped where we did mention that when nurses were provided for Moses and he rejected them, he refused to suck the breast of the nurses provided for him. His elderly sister rushed home and informed his mother when she heard about the information that nurses were requested to be engaged to breastfeed Moses. She went and joined the queue of nurses so that each nurse, if he were to accept any nurse, such nurse will be enlisted and get paid for breastfeeding him. So when it was her turn, as soon as he picked the baby, he grabbed the breast of his mother and started sucking, which means that she was automatically picked for the job. And that was how his mother breastfed him and was paid by the palace. So Moses grew up under the care of his enemy, Pharaoh. This is a very, very important point for us to ponder upon, for us to drive quite a number of lessons. How could somebody be entrusted in the hands of his enemy? An enemy that slaughtered, as I said earlier, hundreds of thousands of innocent babies looking for him to kill. That was the story of Pharaoh. He slaughtered hundreds of thousands of Israeli babies looking only for one child to kill. That child was no other than Prophet Moses. And the same Moses, when he was born, was entrusted in the hands of Pharaoh. Pharaoh was charged by the Almighty Allah to take care of the person that will destroy his kingdom, of the baby that will grow up to destroy his monarchy. That is, Pharaoh himself and his people will be destroyed at the hands of Moses. Not that Prophet Moses will destroy them, no. The Prophet Moses was predestined to grow up to the age of prophethood and will eventually get appointed a prophet and sent to Moses and sent to Pharaoh and his people. And they'll be bound to reject the message. As a result of that, they will get destroyed and drowned in the sea. So you can see how the Almighty Allah is so powerful and omnipresent and omnipotent. that if he is to take care of you, you can sleep soundly in the hands of your most enemy. If the Almighty Allah takes charge of your safety and security, you have nothing to worry about. You can sleep soundly in the hands of your killers. They can't. This is added to the fact that we all know how children are very much innocent, how babies are always innocent. Ordinary babies are always innocent, let alone Moses, who was a prophet. So no baby will feel unsafe in the hands of an enemy. A baby naturally feels safe wherever he finds himself. In fact, even if it comes across a snake or any harmful creature, the baby will never bother because of its innocence. So you can see how Moses, as I said earlier, grew up in the palace up to the age of 30. At that age, Moses went around the city of Egypt. He came across two people engaged in a fight. One of them an Israeli, the other an Egyptian, a Copt. Moses made an attempt to separate them. In the course of separating them, he mistakenly hit the Egyptian because the Egyptian proved to be stubborn when he wanted to separate them. He hit him slightly, and the man fell dead instantly. That got Moses worried. In fact, not only was he worried, he was regretful. He felt so much remorse. And he turned to his Creator, praying for forgiveness. The Almighty Allah narrated this in the chapter Surah Al-Qasas, or the story, that the Almighty Allah having narrated how the mother of Moses was engaged by the palace and was placed on the payroll for breastfeeding her baby, and how the promise of returning him, because she was promised a return, a safe return of her son to her. The Almighty Allah promised her a safe return, that her son will be returned to her safely. Remember when he sent an inspiration to her, when he said, "A'udhu billahi minash shaitanir rajim, wa awhayna ila ummi Musa an ardi'i, fa iza khifti alayhi fa'alqihi fil yam, wa la takhafi wa la tahzani, inna radduhu ilayki wa ja'iluhu min al-mursalin." Sadaqallahu al-azim. We sent an inspiration to the mother of Moses that give suck to your baby. Suckle him. فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. If you are concerned about his safety, throw him in the river. Can you imagine? If a mother is worried about the safety of her baby, let her throw him in the river. Does it sound logical? Of course, to common human sense of reasoning, is quite illogical to ask a mother, whether worried or not, to throw her baby in the river. But Moses' mother was asked to do so by God, that if she is concerned about his safety, she should entrust her safety in the river. She should entrust the safety of the baby in the waves of the river. Let the waves of the river take care of the safety of her baby. Does it sound logical? Of course, to common human sense of reasoning, it is illogical. No right-thinking person would accept this when it comes to common sense of reasoning of man. But this is beyond the common sense of reasoning of human beings. This is a divine inspiration. So you cannot expect our sense of reasoning to be in conformity with the divine mission. It doesn't have to be. That is why this command defies the common sense of reasoning of any human being. That a mother is asked to suckle her baby, that is quite logical. Of course, no mother needs to be asked to suckle her baby. She will suckle him. As soon as she gives birth to him, she will breastfeed him. No mother is in need of being told to breastfeed her baby. But that one sounds logical when she was urged by God to breastfeed her baby. But the subsequent command is out of conformity with the sense of reasoning of common human beings. That is, فَإِذَا خِفْتِ عَلَيْهِ فَأَلْقِهِ فِي الْيَمِّ. If you are concerned about his safety and security, throw him in the river. You can see, وَلَا تَخَافِي وَلَا تَحْزَنِي إِنَّا رَادُّوهُ إِلَيْكِ وَجَائِلُهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. وَلَا تَخَافِي. Don't be afraid. وَلَا تَحْزَنِي. Don't be dismayed. إِنَّا رَادُّوهُ إِلَيْكِ. We promise you a safe return of him to you. وَجَائِلُهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. And we will appoint him a prophet, an apostle. We will place him among the fellowship of apostles. وَجَائِلُهُ مِنَ الْمُرْسَلِينَ. Unsurprisingly, her worst fears were confirmed. That is, her fear was for the baby to fall in the hands of Pharaoh. That was her most fear. And it was real. It came to reality. That is, her fear of the baby falling in the hands of Pharaoh came to reality. فَالْتَقَطَهُ آلُ فِرْعَوْنَ. The people of Pharaoh picked him from the river, from the shores of the river. يَكُونَ لَهُمْ عَدُوًّا وَحَزَنًا. So here you can see what she feared most was for her baby to fall in the hands of Pharaoh and his people. And he did fall in the hands of Pharaoh. Yet he was provided, he was miraculously saved from the machinations of Pharaoh and his people. Not only was he spared their machinations, they were charged with the responsibility of taking care of him up to the age of manhood. Can you imagine? Those looking for him to kill, those who slaughtered thousands, hundreds of thousands of innocent babies in search of Moses. Here is Moses, entrusted in their hands for them to kill if they can do that. If they were dared by God, that kill him if you can. As if the Almighty Allah dared Pharaoh to kill Moses if he can do that. And he failed. Rather, he took care of him. Not out of belief, not out of mercy, but just divine power, divine subjugation. The Almighty Allah has the power to subjugate his servants the way he wants at any point in time. No servant can prove stubborn to the divine will. No single creature can be insubordinate to the divine will. Whatever the Almighty Allah wants to execute as his will, no creature can stop it. That's why the very element, that is the very obstacle, that is the very person that felt he could be an obstacle to the realization of this divine will was used miraculously by God in realizing that same will, in executing the will. Can you imagine? Pharaoh was the most possible obstacle to the realization of that very will of God. Yet the same Pharaoh was used by God, not any other Pharaoh. The same Pharaoh was used in bringing that will to reality. Can you imagine? That is the Almighty. It is the same God that is in charge today. It is the same God that remains in charge up to tomorrow, the day after tomorrow, up to the last moment of this universe. The same God. Nothing has changed. So why are we afraid? Why can't we trust Him? Nothing has changed. I will stop here. When I come in the next session, inshallah, I will continue exactly where I stop. Allahumma salli ala Sayyidina Muhammad, al-Fatih lima ughliq, wal-Khatim lima sabaq, nasir al-haqq bil-haqq, wal-hadi ila siratika al-mustaqim, wa ala alihi haqqa qadri al-azim. Subhana rabbika bi izzati amma yasifun.